And welcome to the Monster Report live here on YouTube and on Facebook. We're so glad to have you here and my special guests. And by the way, this is the first live stream in the new office. It's almost built. We're very close. If you've been following this channel, we've been getting to the point of almost 100,000 subscribers, thanks to you and all your support. So make sure if you're here to like, subscribe, all of those great things to the channel, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and here obviously on YouTube. We're also on Twitter at Monster Report. And just follow us everywhere because we've got all kinds of good content. Been kind of taking a hiatus for a while, building this office, painting, shelving, all kinds of cool stuff that's going on. And so I want to get back in the saddle again and obviously promote more of the channel, promote more that's going out there in the Monsterverse, in the Kaiju universe, and everything that has to do with monsters. And that's why you've joined us here today. Before I bring in my guests today, we have a sponsor. And this is a first for the Monster Report. And I've had offers for sponsorships before in the past. And of course, I do not really care about sponsors so much. But this was one that when they reached out to me, I figured I'd try the product first. Because if I don't like the product, I'm not going to obviously promote it on my channel or promote it anywhere. And so Coating Polish. This is not really necessarily anything kaiju related, but this spray polish actually is one of these products that when I tried it for the first time, this is better polish than I've used in other cases. In my case, I actually used this on my refrigerator, stainless steel appliances. So was able to spray this on. We've been kicking up dust and debris in this house, drywall, all kinds of stuff. It gets all over your appliances. And this product actually, when we got the refrigerator moved into our new kitchen space, it was filthy with fingerprints and because it was moved all around. And of course, we've got 5 kids, so fingerprints get on that anyways. This product, better than any of the other stainless steel polishes that we've used. But this is not just for stainless steel, but that's what we used it for. This can work on your car. This can work on your countertops, your television screen, and it shines. Cleans, shines, restores, and protects. It actually puts a protective layer over whatever product you are trying to polish up. And so definitely check out Coating Polish. I have put the description in the, put a link in the description for this product. So check them out. And if you use my coupon code MONSTER, you'll get 10% off your first purchase. And we've got people already in the chat here. I'll get to you guys in just a moment, but I want to bring in my guest today from TITANIC Creations. We have Mac McClintock. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Nick?
I am doing really well. I'm just glad to have you and Dopepope, who's already been on my channel before, but glad to have him back. Dope, how you doing?
What's up, Nick? How you doing? It's good to be back. What's up, Mac?
Not much. How are you?
Doing good.
Excellent. Of course, recently, you've had a really awesome drop for Gorgo on your website and all your social media outlets, and that's been doing gangbusters. We're going to get to Gorgo in a second and talk more about him and build some excitement for people out there, especially if they might be on the fence about pre-ordering it. Maybe we can get them, over that hump to say, yeah, it's time it's time I pull the trigger and get that thing pre-ordered, which I will be doing that on my side of things next paycheck here. So thank you so much for all that you've done with that. But TITANIC Creations, let's kind of talk about what TITANIC Creations is. You have other products. I've checked out your website, and I'm going to bring it up as you're kind of talking about it. But how did it start? What was the inspiration for it? And if somebody doesn't know much about what you do, kind of describe that for us.
So I think TITANIC Creations, we started in 2018 is when we released our first figure, our mascot Titanicus, right? Who is the monster who sunk the Titanic. And so I think really where it started is actually at probably G-Fest of the year before, right? I'm going around all these dealers tables, right? And this is like before Bandai really started remaking the movie Monster series, Kaiju, right? So I'm going around all these tables and there's these toys with 4 points of articulation, right? They're hollow, they're squishy, selling for $60, $80. And part of me was like, well, I feel like I could make this something similar, of higher quality for cheaper. Like obviously Gorgo right now is $99 because it's, you know, a fully articulated figure, but our main figures we do, which are very close to a Bandai vinyl, but have much closer to X Plus detailing on them in a 6-inch packaging. Those are $40 because I really want people to be able to afford them. But so kind of continuing off that, right? I like, okay, so how am I going to do this? And the first person I reached out to, right, is Dopepope, because since I first saw his sculpting, I'm like, well, if anyone's going to make a great toy, it's him, right? So I reached out to him. We ended up working on a deal for him to do the sculpting for it. And then he did the next 4 figures we did, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then along with that, we also started producing our entire line. I mean, we've been doing comic books from the beginning that came with the toys, right? And then after that, we decided what we really need to do is write a big book, right? That's Soul War, which is 180 pages, nice. Right? And that bad boy, and that really just kind of connected it all together and kind of put a stamp on what I refer to as Series 1 of the Titanic Creations original kaiju. And then kind of growing off of that, right, is so we proved more proof of concept that we could do it, right? So then after that, the next thing was, what's kind of something cool we could do that would be really appreciated by our target consumer? And I started talking to Dopepope about it and kind of what he thought was very well intrigued by people that no one could get. And the name that kept coming up is Gorgo, right? This is a monster from 1962. It's never been made into an articulated figure. There is a few models, and there's the M1 Sufubi one, but none of them really are film accurate and articulated. So we were like, all right, let's do it. And then me and him, we reached an agreement where we both get to benefit from this and get to share in the profits, which is a first for us. And I think really we've been able to get so many talented people to come and work on this project. I mean, Matt Frank has done the box art. We've got people who are working to create the high-end like articulation and making sure the joints are all ready to go that work for Mondo and Funko. So this is going to be probably one of the higher end toys that we could possibly make, especially at this price point.
Okay, excellent. And definitely check out TITANICCreations.com, which I'm displaying up here, and we can see some of your other kaiju up there. Are these original kaiju that have originated just kind of from your imagination, Mac?
Yep. So obviously Titanicus, if we're being honest, does have Godzilla vibes, but a lot of that was also because I think we really couldn't figure out how to put a giant iceberg on any other kind of body form and make it not look kind of ridiculous, right? But yeah, all these are, you know, our own original monsters that we've been able to tell an interesting story about. Like Nosferodon, personally my favorite because of its amazing wings that really don't make a lot of sense to fly, but look cool, right? And just the stories you're able to tell when you're able to have freedom with this and create places where, you know, you can use the giant monsters to tell interesting stories that aren't just, you know, giant monster knocks over a building kind of.
All right, I'll get back to the kind of the monsters and kind of their backstories and, you know, what goes into it. And then we'll get Dopepope as part of this. I'm going to get some of the guys in the chat here. We've got Adrian, Godzilla Train. Good to see you. He always calls us the Kaiju family. That's awesome. Godzilla Fan Freaks, Everett Grondin. Good to have you here. He's definitely already put out a video to check out already. Real excited about Gorgo, and he's building up some excitement from his end of the spectrum. We've got Brendan, Autistic Lizard Productions. Good to have you. And another Nick. There's more room in the world for more Nicks. So he's excited about Gorgo, looks like. So with that, kind of tell me, you know, going into designing the kaiju, designing, you know, what goes into them. It's not just in a name. I imagine the name kind of, I don't know if it came first or as the design was coming, kind of go into what goes into making an original kaiju and maybe not trying to be too similar to one that's already out there.
So I think our design process is somewhat a lot of throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks sometimes, right? So Titanicus, we did, I think, 2 concept arts right? And we finally got like kind of a somewhat of a shape. We knew kind of from the beginning that we wanted him to have an iceberg spike, right? And then we got that. And then usually what happens is I have the concept art done, and then I hand it over to Dopepope, and then he like basically fills out the details, right? So like, I think the original Titanicus, like we're looking at right now, he didn't have as many spikes as he has here, right? And they weren't all of the different asymmetry. So like there is some symmetrical parts to Titanicus, but like each one of the individual back spikes is individually sculpted. So we're not using the same spike and all the way down. And especially on the tail, like he has, you know, some that look like they've been chipped off or other things because like he's, you know, made of ice and he should have things falling apart. But kind of then growing off of that, how do we like make a new design? Like Nosferatu is one that looks absolutely ridiculous compared to anything else you'll see out there. And really what we started with Nosferatu was we wanted to make everything as unique as humanly possible. So we kind of made a design. I think the original concept art, he walked on 2 feet. And then as we handed it over to Dopepope, he kind of like started playing around with it and started showing it kind of as a quadruped as it is now. And then you can see the paint job here is a little bit more, it's like pumping blood is kind of how it's supposed to look and kind of striped. But like you can see on his neck, he has like veins pumping through, like kind of like almost like they've been created, right? And that plays into the story of him being an alien that was created to defeat Grafixus on his home planet, right? So all these things, like you take the story elements, right, and then you kind of mix it in with the design. And sometimes that goes back and forth where a design thing then becomes a story thing after playing with it. Because we did make the toys first just because they're a lot easier to promote, because if someone sees something like that and it's done and you can hold it, it's a lot easier to connect with than, you know, just seeing an image on a page or a book written, which takes a lot more effort to get people to care about sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then there's, I think, the Griffix, I believe it's called, or let me bring him up here. Oh, there's, tell me how to pronounce, I don't want to
Scaraeus. So Scaraeus is actually the Greece and Egyptian word for snake, scorpion. So not the most, it's an interesting way to get about doing it. But this one, as silly as it sounds, is we basically were like, well, we want an Egyptian monster to tie into our story with the Nazi campaign in Egypt going on in Civil War. So we basically said, what is you find in the desert that is really scary? And we said, well, a snake and a scorpion. And then you just kind of combined it together, and Dopepope did just a great job with the sculpt to make it believable that a snake head would be popping out of a scorpion, which is not something you'll obviously ever see in a real setting. And then kind of when I talk about Grafixus, right, is very heavily inspired by the 1994 unproduced Godzilla movie where he fights the Griffin monster and follows a lot of the same characteristics. So really this one is kind of much closer to a dragon, right? And we also were able to use those translucent plastics again on the wings. Because originally, the original design before we handed it over to Dopepope was that he has had skeleton wings, which didn't make a lot of sense for flying, unless he defies gravity. But then Dopepope added the kind of membranes here, and that kind of grew to become kind of his signature form. And really the biggest thing with designing one of these guys is that it just needed to like work with the other figures, right? And Grafixus here, as you read through the book, we'll find that he's not actually in his final form, as the point of this beast is that he adapts to his environment to become kind of like an apex predator.
Very cool. Let's bring Dope in here. Dopepope, tell me one of the things that maybe is signature about you, because I've seen multiple eyes in other artwork that you've done. Is this one of the things that you're a big fan of, is not just 2 eyes?
It's interesting when it works. But this wasn't by choice. This was given to me on the concept art, so I just did what I saw. But I did do a Ghidorah that had like 3 eyes on each side of its head, and I just did that just to make it look more outer spacey, and then I guess it kind of like took off from there. But yeah, I mean, it's either 1 eye in dead center or multiples on each side. But yeah, whatever you're gonna do to play around with that.
I was going to say, so you get some concepts from these guys, and then you get to work in your modeling software to get it into something that then becomes a physical reality. And so talk about the process that goes into starting from scratch.
Well, luckily that Mac provides me with some really great concept art, and it might not be complete. It might not be a 360 turnaround. So I don't know full details in every aspect and from every angle sometimes, but I get the basic gist and like the meat of it. And thank God for that, because once I'm there, my goal is to just make that 3D, copy what I see. And then as I'm sculpting, I'm thinking what would look good, what would look better, what would be interesting. And in doing so, that's what we arrive at, the final form of the 3D. But it's not my goal to take what it's given to me and completely discard it and do my own thing. I love that I'm given something to work with, and then I infuse a little bit of my style and my artistic values into it. And then from there, we just then it becomes just a homogenization of ideas, and I think that's important, that everybody's 2 cents is involved, not just me and mine.
I was going to ask either Mac or Dope, is the some of the names. I mean, obviously, someone's a fan of the Titanic with the whole iceberg kind of thing with Titanicus, and then Nosferatu. Is there a Nosferatu kind of connection there, or is there another reference that I may be missing?
So Nosferatu is a vampire kaiju in general because he sucks souls from other beasts. So Nosferatu was the perfect starting point for a name. Griffixus is a griffin from outer space. So we added an X to make it more spacey, obviously. And then Scraeus, as mentioned, is the Greece and Egyptian words for snake and scorpion.
And just thinking, I don't remember another, let's say Egyptian giant monster. There's maybe Egyptian, the mummy and things like that. And, the films that have different kind of creatures, but a giant monster, a kaiju sized monster. I can't think of another one that's got its Egypt origins, which is really cool.
Well, I guess the only one we can compare it to is, I don't know if there's ever been a movie where the Sphinx decides to stand up and try to wreak mayhem, but not a lot from Egypt, right? Because you have mummies are Egyptian, right? That's kind of where people draw the line on their Egyptian monster lore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then definitely getting in the snake and the scorpion. I also think of the scarabs and things like that, but little things, but not a giant monster. And so there is definitely something about the snake head and all of that, and that's very cool designs. I always love seeing original kaiju designs that are out there, and hearing about the stories that kind of go into them. And so let's talk some Gorgo here. I'm gonna bring up some more chats that we've got here. Tombs of Evil, been eyeballing Titanic Creations for a while. Pre-order Gorgo today. Thank you very much. Are there other pre-existing kaiju you've discussed getting the license for?
That's a big yes, but I don't know if we should be talking about that just yet. But if you want to mention, so it's up to Mac. It's not up to me.
So I'd say the best way to put it is that how well this has gone, it will be a high priority to secure some other very obscure kaiju in the very near future.
Okay, yeah. And then Chris Olio, Seismic Toys.
Hey.
And congrats on the figure and release. What a perfect sculpt by Dope. Awesome. And yeah, he's an independent toy maker like yourself with the Seismic Toys. And so he knows the challenges of getting the licensing and getting like the sculpts and the manufacturing of it. I mean, that is a bear to take on. And I'm speaking from no experience. Going into it, Mac, was it like starting to call people up and be like, get the connections? How do I get this made? All of that.
So I think in 2018, when I started doing this, I was like, all right, so I know most toys are made in China. That was my starting point, right? And then I'm like, all right, so how do you reach Chinese manufacturers? Like, how do you get there? So the place you find most of these people is on Alibaba, actually, right? So then you just start reaching out to them, and you got to find the vendor who works right for you, right? So like our first Titanicus figure, the one we made, not the current one, was fine. It looked fine, right? But like the factory didn't take the amount of effort into painting it as highly as I would have liked, right? So before we did Nosferatu, we had to switch over to a different factory, the one we're currently using. And really their quality control was far higher. But so really to kind of answer the question though, like doing it, I think the biggest thing was we had to figure out each step, right? So like Titanicus is our most simple kaiju. It has 4 points of articulation. It doesn't have any special materials in it. It's PVC vinyl painted, right? Then we went to Nosferatu, right? He has more points of articulation. He has 6, I believe, right? And he also has a special material. So we learned how to do that. Started testing joint stiffness, how to get better at that. And then we moved to Scraeus. And Scraeus has all of his legs can move, right? So we had to make sure that it could stand up on his own, right? Because you don't want him splaying out or falling forward, right? So then we had to test that out, and that took some time, and that actually got delayed a lot because of the COVID-19 pandemic, right? Which was really unforeseen. But then you're just learning how to communicate with Chinese businesses is also another whole other level of thing you have to do, right? Because to a certain degree, they have very different customs than we do in the United States about how to communicate. But really, it was just as you find a partner who you trust, it's a lot easier. And then the biggest thing that I found was way harder than I expected was shipping the toys from China to us in the United States, especially a lot, not to have any political things, but during the Trump term when we had a lot of tariffs going on with China and having to pay those coming over. And really just been a lot learning experience, like how do you make this product and the process that 5 to 6 month process of pre-order to shipping, and how can I be the best I can be to be able to deliver these products to everyone as quickly as possible.
Yeah, so a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, and obviously trying to get over that idea of quality control, because there can be very inexpensive products that come out of China, but not all of them have to be that way. Obviously, we're toy collectors ourselves, and we're knowing where these are coming from. So it's where you get it and what kind of communication you have with them. We have the request for primal raids. That's an interesting idea, I guess. If you can go down that rabbit hole. And then there's Red Devil Dancer. Hey, I'm so happy a Gorgo set's being made. Will there also be more characters coming from Soul Wars, such as humans that accompany some of the kaiju?
So the answer to this is, if Gorgo does well, our plan is to eventually make all 4 of the Titanic Creations kaiju in the articulated form, right? And then they would come with their human counterparts, like Nosferatu would come with Wolf and probably some other fun add-ons, but Wolf would definitely be included. So you would have the entire human cast if you bought all 4 of the articulated versions of them. It just makes more sense for us to wait to do that until they're all made into this higher form factor than the ones we currently have. And the other thing is, really, we make monster toys. We don't really make the human action figures. And once again, it's kind of hard to really get people excited to buy a 6-inch articulated figure of a Jewish boy from Germany without knowing the story. So he probably would be an accompanying figure with Nosferatu, but the plan is to do that.
Awesome. And then absorbing water thing, or SpongeBob. This is really awesome. Everett from Godzilla Fan Freaks would love to see Reptilicus, the giant behemoth, the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, the giant claw. You got your work cut out for you if you can get all of that. But that does bring up an interesting question. I did get on Facebook earlier today from Kevin Derendorf. He couldn't attend on the stream tonight, but he was kind of curious about securing the rights for Gorgo. I guess who does actually own the rights?
So this was a huge problem for us when we first started.
Never easy, I'm sure.
No, because these are all these monsters, right, are from defunct production companies, right? The company that made Gorgo went out of business 5 years after they released the film, right?
The King Brothers or whatever. Yeah.
So we had to figure out, okay, who consolidated these rights, usually through bankruptcy filings, right? So my first starting process was, let's go through the copyright filings. Let's see if I can find anything for Gorgo in the United States. And I find this one in 2004 for VCI Entertainment. And I don't know if you know who VCI is. VCI is who produced the Blu-ray of Gorgo in about 2010. So I started digging down this hole, and eventually what I find is somehow, and this is very dicey if it's actually true, but they have a legal filing to it, is that the camera crew and his wife, so the main camera, like cinematographer for Gorgo, after the film fell apart, got the rights to the film. And then before he died in 2005, he ended up selling these rights to VCI Entertainment. And really, VCI Entertainment has just been sitting on this for about 15 years. Wow. And I think I sent him an email and I'm like, could you point me in the right direction? And they're like, yeah, we actually just have those. We just have them. And to his credit, like Robert over there at VCI has been great to work with. He's been able to help us move very quickly on this without having any problems. Like, I know a lot of people who deal with licensing, right? Like a lot is what when you see like a toy come out, it's like pending licensing approval. That's why a lot of these take a lot of time, is because they have to go back and forth with making edits from the licensor side. And really, he's just been giving us thumbs up all the way.
Wow. Yeah, because that can be a bear, figuring that out. It's kind of like us Godzilla fans already know, securing a Godzilla license for anything, Toho license for anything. And then, of course, we're out here saying we just want, like in some cases, a home video release of 1985 without it being, a bootleg or something. And we're like, yeah, there's a rabbit hole, and there's bankruptcy like you talked about, and then where do the rights go? It's funny that I was kind of assuming maybe in my head somewhere that things get consolidated down and it's one of the big guys like Universal or someone like that, or Disney, that might end up with it, and then they just sit on it forever and nothing ends up happening. So I'm glad you found it in the company that you could communicate with and you could work with to get those rights to the point of creating the toy.
Yeah, for sure. It was really good. And a lot of this is consolidation. Like, one figure we were really looking at is the giant claw, but that is owned by Sony. And really, that was we kind of ran into a wall real quick with them. But so yeah, working with these, because a lot of these weird older movies got consolidated down to little, home video release companies that do specialty runs. And really, those people have been a great resource to be able to try to find who to contact for these obscure monsters.
Okay, well, awesome. And then I had a question in the chat. Gorgo be able to do a swimming pose, I guess, depending upon the articulation, right?
Yep. So I think the feet will be able to go completely back, and also his arms will be able to go completely back. His head will be able to tilt up somewhat. It won't be able to go completely flat. But I would say if you feel like your swimming pose on like your SH Monster Arts Godzilla is good, then Gorgo will be as well.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to bring up the animation and get more of Dopepope in here talking about getting Gorgo, from what material you had to begin with to the point where we have a 3D rendering of it. So I'm going to bring up our a little window here with the the cinematic that you guys had put together, and we'll watch this real quick and then come back with some reaction. Okay, just epic, absolutely epic to see this cinematic. So, Dope, you did the 3D rendering. Tell me about the process of getting Gorgo to come to life.
Well, I just provided the model that I did for the toy, and when I made the toy, I envisioned it like my goal was to make the best looking Gorgo that looks like from the movie, because that's, as a collector, that's what I want. I mean, this is something I want on my shelf as much as anybody else wants it. Any true fan of kaiju, they feel like there's a void by quite a few monsters, but this one in particular. So for me, if I'm going to be displaying something, I want that we say X plus detail. So my goal was to make it look as beautiful and as true to the movie as I could. But then from there, it can't be animated because it's too high poly, the model. So I had to hand it off to somebody to optimize it for animation. So I need to shout out Chris Scalf or Schalf. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's somebody who helped me out with that. And thankfully he did a great job. So he just transferred the textures onto a modified mesh that could be animated. And then Terrell Christie did the animations, I think, all in Blender. And superseded my expectations. I had no idea what I was going to get. And when I was sent the video, I thought they sent me clips of the movie. And I'm like, what are you sending me this for? I've seen Gorgo. What are you sending me this? And he's like, that's the animation. So like this, it was just so beautifully done. And then to see my work animated, I think this might be the very first time to see my sculpts actually really move in like a short form story like this. And I love it. It's so impressive. I'm thrilled with it. I think it's really helping spread the word. And thanks to everybody who's a part of it.
Oh, it's incredible. And, seeing it lit up the way it is a big part of, how we look at these figures. And so, seeing it lit up with that whole, London skylight and the fires burning in the background, just amazing. And of course, that signature Gorgo roar that we hear throughout the movie, which is just amazing. But getting into, the design for the 3D sculpt for the figure, taking it from what you had in the movies, what kind of challenges does the form of Gorgo give you?
Well, there's no reference other than the movie sequences. You can't really find the way you can now. You can't just go Google some, like, what does this monster look like from the back or from underneath? So I made lots of mistakes along the way. There was parts of the body I didn't even clearly see. So I think I screwed up the foot in the beginning, and we had to go back in there and make some changes, and it's hard. It's a process. I did sit and watch the movie, and I must have taken like 100 screen grabs from it just so I could have textures and angles and know what everything looks like. But it's so much of it is in shadow and silhouette that it's really hard to figure things out. So yeah, but it was fun. That's the challenge of just about any monster. There's lots of things you never get to see, or you see real quickly and with motion blur, and then you just have to figure out what that is. What do you think it looks like, and make it look as good as the rest of it. And that was what I think I achieved. People seem very happy with it. And I know when you articulate a model, you do lose a lot because you have to chop it up and you have to retexture areas, and they have to work. They have to fold in and on themselves. And so that's, to see it look as good as it did before it was chopped up, it's just mind blowing to me. I love the way it looks, even with the articulation. But I'm one of those people that doesn't, I don't care about articulation. I'm not playing with these things. I'm not posing them. I'm just putting them on my shelf. So I do like a static statue that doesn't have cuts, and maybe with any luck we get to do that. That'll be beautiful. A 12-inch Gorgo. I don't know if you guys want it, but let us know if you do. We'll be happy to make it. But the 6 inches.
Say that again. Sorry.
The 6 inches looking killer. So I'm thrilled.
Well, awesome. And I was going to ask if going through like you did with the movie, and I don't know much of the background of Gorgo, you know, obviously I know it was a suit, but if there were other alternative heads or portions of the body that they use, obviously from the original Godzilla, we could say this is a sculpt that resembles the original Godzilla. Okay, but is it the hand puppet version of the Godzilla, or is it the suit? And so we have those, you know, as Godzilla fans, we know that in that film that we have two different looks to Godzilla. So did you kind of figure through going through this if they were using alternatives for different shots that may not have mashed up or meshed up quite well?
Yeah, that's always on my mind. That's absolutely, it's a great question because it's something you know is going on in the behind the scenes of all these movies. There's not just one definitive Godzilla look. There's a million in any given movie. There's quite a few for far away shots and little maquettes that they do for different scenes. And Godzilla 84 had the Cyberzilla, which every time it was on screen, I knew I was looking at a wholly different thing. And, you know, I'm more of a suit fan. And same here, Gorgo, the suit. It was all about the suit. I was aware there was like a giant hand thing, and there was definitely probably heads that look different when they come out of the water. There's different spatial relationships between eyes and fins and stuff like that matter. But to me, the suit, it was all about the suit. So I tried to look at mostly that as much as possible. And they use a lot of the same shots for both the baby and the mother. So it was hard to differentiate the look for the baby and the look for the mother because they're identical. They're just different sizes. So, and then in this one scene at the end, you see them together, but it's so dark, you don't see any details. So I can't tell you what the difference is between the looks other than the size. So basically I sculpted the one and then I was okay with it being used for the baby as well because it was so similar.
Got a question in the chat, then I've got a follow-up question to what you were just talking about there. So will Gorgo be able to do a Doctor Strange poses like in the Steve Ditko comics? I'm
100%.
Yeah?
100%.
Okay.
And do the hand poses.
Yeah.
The problem is the movie Gorgo's fingers don't move. So
true.
Gorgo does move either.
Yeah. They're just giant claws with and going into the fact that you had essentially kind of stretch goals with where you are now with the pre-orders, and we'll talk about the pre-orders in a second, but going into the fact that we'll be able to get, what were the stretches like? What, you know, we were going to get Gorgo and baby mother Gorgo and baby Gorgo, and then the next thing was, I think, the bell, wasn't it? Or you know, those stretches. The sub, yeah, the one that dropped down and got attacked. Did you have to kind of pre-arrange those sculpts to get ready ahead of time?
So those are getting done right now. Not in my wildest dreams was I thinking we were going to hit 400 in 3 days. I thought Monday next week was my kind of drop dead point for those. So those are coming. They'll be done Monday, but those are going to look just like the film. And so the sub, right, will be, you know, size of about probably a nickel, right? And then the jet squadron will also show that Monday or as we get really close to 500, right? So those will just be 3, you know, British jets that you can pose with them as they were flying over London. And then the ones after that, right, we have those are the ones that are big, right? If we get 600 and we're doing the Big Ben add-on, right, that's a big add-on because that's going to be, you know, 4 inches tall, 4 or 5 inches, right? And it's going to be breakable. And then the eyes lighting up, that's another one. We'll probably just do a separate head that you'll get that lights up, right? So it won't be able to move as much as the standard head, but it will have a light effect. But yeah, so doing all these, right? We had the baby Gorgo ready to go, because that was the first one, and the plan was always to do both the baby and the mom, because that felt like the soul of the movie that we had to keep.
Excellent. So yeah, having that kind of prearranged, and at the moment you're just past 400 pre-orders.
Yep, I think it's at 403 now. So 500 is right around the corner. It seems like how things are going right now.
And with the pre-order open, is it somewhat indefinitely open, or is there a deadline that people need to make sure they're pre-ordering before?
Okay, so I think I've not been very clear with this. So we're making 800 of these, right? So if we sell over 800, but you order before May 31st, you will get your figure, right? So if we sell more than 800 before May 31st, then we'll extend the run so that people can buy it. So basically, it's 800 if we go past May 31st and don't get to 800, right? So what I would suggest is that if you want to make sure you get this, you need to order it before May 31st.
Yeah. So just kind of consider that a really good deadline to get your hands on the $99 Gorgo. I mean, it's, just $100. Some of these figures that are out there that are new and coming up, and it's nice you were able to keep some of your other figures like you talked about at a lower price, and so that it's not just for the super collectors that are out there, that anyone who's a fan of these should be able to grab a hold of one and have it in their hands. And of course, like we said, no one else is, except for like the M1 and some models out there, making a movie accurate version of Gorgo. So this is definitely a first to have out there, and then to have this official license like you've got going, and then being able to put you over to be able to get that Big Ben and the bell and all of that. So that's going to be awesome to see. Did you expect even just just to get to the point of baby Gorgo, and would be happy with that? But can tell me your reaction, I guess.
So I think really the best way to put it was the first hour. I think we sold over 100. And at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, we have done a really good job talking about this, getting it going beforehand. That was very, just fulfilling. And I think I felt like my low end estimate was about 120 orders based upon how many email sign-ups we got. So to see it convert and get over 400 as quickly as it did, it was incredible. I let Dopepope speak about how he felt watching the counter go up the first few days, but yeah. I was just, it was amazing.
First, you think, how are we going to sell any of these in the first place? Who cares about Gorgo? Then you think, wow, we sold 100 in the first hour. We're going to sell 1,000. now we're not sure if we're going to sell 1,000, but then we're like, to get 400 in 2 days or whatever it's been, it's beyond my expectations, even though they fluctuate back and forth crazily. But yeah, this is amazing because we still have plenty of time left on the thing. The fact that it's going to get made regardless of whatever happens from this point is such a sigh of relief. Like, it would just, like, it's really going to happen. This is beautiful. So, but yeah, anything that comes after this is just adding to the overall, which is just wonderful. It's a great feeling.
So cool. And being able to have that in your hands, to be part of that collection is just, we put our collections on display up here like this, and then we're always pointing out those one or two, unique ones that stand out. And this is definitely one when I get mine, that it's going to be one that's going to stand out from your Godzillas and your typical monsters, the kaiju, the Toho monsters, the Gamras, and all of that. Going back to this film, that's a one-off. Gorgo, what's your kind of guys, background with it? I'll tell you mine real quick. I only discovered Gorgo because of the video store, the VHS rental stores back in the 80s and 90s that I went to. And, they got their Godzilla movies, and they actually had Gamera, if you can believe that, on VHS there. And there's this other monster movie. They had Rodan, of course. They did have the one VHS with Gorgo's face and the fire behind it. And I was like, kind of looks like Godzilla. And I was like, interested, kind of disappointed he didn't breathe fire, but I was a kid, so I was like, it still
I mean,
was.
that's fair.
What's that?
I was just saying that's fair. I mean,
Fair enough.
Cool,
right? Yeah, I just wanted him to have something more, but I definitely saw the inspiration of Godzilla even as a kid. But it was one of those tapes that I watched over and over again, and it just was very entertaining, and was always hopeful for a better quality look to it. And then when we got our Blu-ray recently, I was like, man, this looks amazing, compared to what I remember it looking like. So tell me, you guys, just real brief, what's your background with Gorgo, and when you discovered it and your reaction to it?
So I'll go first. Really, I always kind of knew about Gorgo, right, in kind of a general sense. And then I feel like the first time I ever watched the whole movie through was actually when the Mystery Science Theater 3000 revival happened, and it was the first episode, right? And I watched it, I'm like, this actually has a lot more substance to it than a lot of, your 70s Godzilla movies and, Showa Gamma rays, because the movie had a very interesting idea that, like, the monster doesn't die, which is kind of crazy for a Western film made in the time, because I mean, if you go through almost any monster movie made in America or Great Britain during that time, the monster gets it at the end. There is never a question about it. And this is really one of the first ones you see the monster, the mom, and the kid just get to walk off free, and London burns to the ground, and we're supposed to feel like that's a happy ending, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You never really see that. Because Gappa, that movie, it copies Gorgo, they kind of get to do it too. But that's like, those are the only two instances where the monsters get away without getting destroyed. But yeah, I'm a lot older than you guys, I think. So I grew up on Gorgo. He's been there since the beginning, as far as I remember, just along with all those other one and dones like Yongari and Gappa and Gilala and all those. I love them all. Those are my favorites. And they're, up there with Gamera and Godzilla. So to me, they were always just the crew. And but Godzilla always gets the spotlight, and then Gamera after that. But Gorgo never, especially since I started collecting toys and needing to own certain pieces, I would always dreamt of having a Gorgo that was, highly detailed and looked just as good as the movie did. So, and I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. There's got to be fans out there that need this toy, and for 62 years it didn't exist. So I think it's awesome that somebody's doing it. Might as well be us.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We got in the chat. So excited for Gorgo. Can't wait for it to come out. I have all the figures. All the Gorgo figures, or all the
thank you so much.
Titanic Creations figures, maybe. I hope that's the case. Yeah. And I was going to say, go ahead.
I think I'm pretty sure they have all of our figures, because I kind of recognize the name, because I also package all the boxes too. So I end up seeing just about every single order that comes through.
A loyal customer. Yeah. And I hope we can get some more loyal customers heading to TitanicCreations.com. And obviously, I want to give you guys the chance to shout out anyone you have on your list. I'm going to take 1 minute to shout out for their sponsor, Coning Polish. Again, once more, if you didn't see the beginning of the video, check out Coning Polish. And this is a great stainless steel polish, and it will also clean vehicles, television screens, countertops, and cleans, shines, restores, protects, all those great things. 3 easy instructions: spray, wipe, buff. I've got a link in the description for Coning Polish and my coupon code MONSTER, and you'll get 10% off. And it's one of the products that I've actually used personally, and I definitely recommend it. I don't have any sponsor except for Coning, so this is one that I had to try it first to make sure, and definitely go through the process, and work great for our stainless steel appliances, and I definitely recommend it. So check them out. Shout outs, gentlemen. Who do we have to thank to, who've brought you along in this journey of bringing Gorgo to life?
I'll let Dopepope go first here for a second.
Well, Mac, obviously, I got to thank him for like providing the opportunity. He tracked down that license like a pro. We've been working together for years, so we were able to make this happen. If I did this on my own, the whole way this started was I was about to sculpt Gorgo just for fun. And then he brought it up as just like in conversation about what could we possibly work on next. And it was just like magic, like perfect timing. And then from that conversation to this moment, it doesn't even really feel like that long. So I definitely got to thank Mac and Titanic Creations, and then everybody who's been involved thus far. Obviously, it's not enough time to mention everybody, but that's basically it. Just everybody, and everyone who bought one. Holy shit!
That is awesome. Yes. Thank you to all those who did the pre-orders. And for those of you on the fence who are watching right now, it's definitely time to pull the trigger on that. Especially, I wouldn't wait until that May 31st. I definitely try to get to the website as quick as you can. And Mac, any shout outs you'd like?
So I'm just going to list off some names that I know worked on this. So first of all, Matt Frank for helping us get the box art done. And also he tweeted more than anyone else on the planet the past 2 days to help us out, which I really appreciate. And then Tyrell Christie for his work on that animation. It was amazing. Also to my girlfriend, Shazia Ali, who did all the sound design for it, and her ability to pull the roars from the original film to be able to use in it to keep the authenticity there. Also, I want to thank really everyone who ordered. The fact that you guys I know we've shipped toys before and we have some rep work, but the fact that you guys are willing to put down $100 today to help us get this done is really just phenomenal, and something that I can't thank you guys enough for. And also I want to thank Patrick McKintock, who did our graphic novel, and also probably will be doing the Gorgo graphic novel as well. And yeah, so that's everybody, just a lot of, and also Dopepope for just getting this thing done, because like I can't sculpt, I can't draw a circle. So his work is literally, I think, really what sets us apart from almost anyone else. I mean, Dope has done work for Mezco, X Plus, and everything. And the fact that he's working with us is really just a blessing every single day.
Thank you.
And when you did post about Dopepope, I was like, I know that guy. That's going to be an awesome figure. So he's definitely going to do you a good job. So it's definitely showing. And speaking of Matt Frank's in the chat. Wild timing. You gave him the shout out, and there he is. I think he even liked our tweet or retweeted. So found out about this. Wanted to say super happy how this project is going. Looking forward to seeing that box art. I know we've got the image that you put out there. On Twitter and Facebook and all that. Is that the box art, or is that close to what we're going to get?
So I don't know if Dopepope has one of our boxes near him or not. I don't currently, but so all of our figures come in these wraparound boxes they're plastic see-through boxes, right? So what they do is you can set the figure inside of it, right, and it looks like the monster is rampaging through the city. So what we did is we created the scene at the carnival on the front and side of the boxes. So it'll look like Gorgo is stomping through London if you leave it in the box or take it out of the packaging. Or if you don't want that, you can flip it around and you'll have Matt Frank's drawing on the back.
Okay, so it's going to be some unique box art. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And Matt Frank appreciates the shout outs. Everyone check out Matt Frank's art. He's got amazing art out there. I mean, he's the go-to guy when it comes to the kaiju, very, very cool stylistic art that he's got, the comic book style. And then you've got Dopepope. You've got a varsity team, Mac. I mean, I'm jealous already. I'm just
right. That's the goal, right? Right. That's basically what I said when we started making this. I'm like, I want the absolute best we can do out of this, and I can't appreciate just how grateful I am to bring in people like this.
The first thing I said to myself when he said Matt was doing the box art, I was like, "Oh, great! It's going to be better than the figure looks." And but you know what? That's kind of like the point. Like when I was a kid, every time you bought something, the box art was always better than the figure. The G.I. Joes. I mean, the list goes on. You remember that Godzilla tricephalon box set? that art on the box was
Oh, yeah.
killer, and then you open it up and it looks nothing like that. So I guess it's kind of like the way it should be. But that box art Matt did is just beautiful. It needs to be a poster or something.
So he had to cut up the film trying to find references, just what Dopepope was doing. I mean, the workflow, I mean, to get to that point, to see what Gorgo from all angles would look like, and to not, because there, you know, there's going to be somebody out there who said, oh, well, you noticed in, you know, minute 35 of the film, you know, he doesn't have those bumps on his back or something. You know, you're going to get the comic book guy from The Simpsons, right, who's going to tell you did something wrong. So, I mean, like you said, it was trial and error, and you made your mistakes, you learned from them, you moved on, and you know, I think we've got it nailed down here. I'm just, you know, looking at the cinematic. I just love to see, you know, I'd love to have it in my hands here soon. So, and to be able to get that review done for you, and definitely, you know, shout out to all like you put out there, that this was a group effort. You have the very best helping you out, getting this where it is. And that's gonna show through. And OmniViewer telling you Gorgo's better than Grogu. There's enough Grogus out there for you. So, you know, we gotta have our big kaiju out there. Thank you, Mama Gorgo, our Lord and Savior, that Dopepope had made that 3D model, because it saved me a lot of work. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, when is Reptosaurus getting a figure? I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, there's so much that you can do. And I guess this might be the shot in the arm. Mac, are you essentially with the Titanic Creations, the one-man band with, you know, subcontractors like Dope and like Matt to help you out with this?
So, yeah, I basically do the boring stuff, is I think the best way to put it, right? I respond to emails at 2 a.m. from factories in China and do all the customer support stuff and ship boxes. So really, I think most of it is always, you know, wanting to grow and eventually get to a place where, you know, we're a legitimate studio. That I think really what I want to be able to eventually feel like is, if you buy something from Titanic Creations, it means it's high quality and you know that it's going to be done the right way.
Absolutely. And so, you know, this will be the shot in the arm, hopefully, to get you to the next licensed figure and definitely promote what you've already got out there. And so I'm looking forward to that. We're about 2 minutes out here, and then we'll cut things off. But to give everyone the chance to check out TitanicCreations.com. And then, of course, I wanted you guys to shout out where you are on social media. Let's start with Dope, because I definitely know you're out there in the social media spaces. So where can they find you out there in the different platforms?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Twitter as Dopepope, zeros for O's, because someone got my name before me. And you know, I'm on ArtStation as Dopepope. You can't really not find me. I'm everywhere. I'm just not on Facebook. That's the only one I'm not on. But yeah, that's it. And I do want to shout out some plugs if I can.
Absolutely.
All right, I got a little something coming up with Seismic. It's not so little. It's pretty big. I'm looking very forward to it. It's all I can say, but it's a beautiful thing. And then I got something else brewing with YMSF, if anybody's familiar with their toys. And a little something we cooked up with Eric Sosa and Erwin Papa called Black Market Kaiju. It's something we're doing original designs together, and we're trying to see if we get them made into toys. And we're pretty excited about that, because I don't get to do too many original things. It's a lot of like, here's my design, do it. So that was kind of interesting to get involved with. And I sell 3D prints of almost all of my work. Just email me at dope@dopepope.com. And right now I'm currently promoting Zilla for the 25th anniversary and Clover, the Cloverfield Monster, for the 15th anniversary, selling 3D prints of those things. So yeah, hit me up.
All right, awesome. And Mac, just in a moment, we got a shameless plug, Godzilla Fan Freaks. I always plug my channel on his, so you gotta have to check out his Kaiju Chill O'Clock episode 40, Graveyard Ship tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain, which if we're Eastern time, I don't know, you got to do the math. It's 2 hours off from where we are. So yeah, check us out. And Mac, where can they find Titanic Creations?
First place is obviously TitanicCreations.com. That's the most important one. But you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We have a TikTok now, surprisingly enough, and we have a YouTube. All those are Titanic Creations, most of them with only one C. So it's Titanic Creations. And also one other plug, our Soul War. Yep, there you go. And our socials are the exact same, except instead of 2 C's, it's 1, because the person who has 2 C's is a bakery that is defunct. So, but
you definitely looked into it.
No. But so, and the other plug is that our graphic novel Soul War, if you purchase today, you'll be sent the digital copy immediately, and it should be shipping into this month at a slight delay due to Chinese New Year being a lot earlier than I thought it would be. So those will ship into the month, first week of April. And yep, that's all I got.
All right, excellent. So, and we've got Gorgo's Lurie's masterpiece, and yeah, it is absolutely a masterpiece and the crowning achievement of the 50s Western kaiju era. Yes, kind of 50s. It's 62, but yeah, revolutionary in themes, ending and maybe more influential Western press. So yeah, I was going to say, the King brothers, the Eugene Laurie, and of course we think of this one, and I always tie it in with Behemoth, and surprisingly, maybe you guys also the same way. Jurassic Park: The Lost World, with the mother monster going into the arena, saving its child. And, I definitely could see that Spielberg took some, without being shameless like Gappa, but, to have the Gorgo storyline as part of what he did. So it's definitely influenced something in the more modern, space of entertainment too. But yeah, everyone out there, check out TitanicCreations.com. Follow them on all the social outlets out there, and definitely check out the YouTube channel, and you'll see that really awesome cinematic that they had, put together. Thank you, Matt. Again, you've got a great crew, and stick around, gentlemen, after we go off the air here, and we'll say our proper goodbyes. But for all of you out there, thank you for tuning in, checking this out, having your questions ready for these guys. And we're definitely looking forward to seeing the stretch goals that you've got as the pre-orders continue to go up. And everyone's going to go there right now and place their pre-orders. For me, Nick Adam Poling, this has been another episode of the Monster Report Live. And thank you so much to my guests, Mac McClintock and Dopepope, for joining us. And subscribe, comment, all of those great things. We're getting close to that 100,000 subscriber mark here on YouTube. So thank you so much for all that support. The new office is coming together, and I'm going to have you guys on for a future episode of the Monster Report Live, talking to you about when we finally get Gorgo in our hands. So if you guys are up for that, give me.
Sure.
All right, excellent. As my internet seems to be dwindling at this point, so we'll get this. We'll close up this episode. Stick around, gentlemen, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Monster Report Live. We will catch you next time.